Hi, welcome to another episode of Mustache You Something. Uh, it's been so long since Mitch has been available that my mustache is gone and back to a beard. Uh, Mitch, welcome back.
Good to be back, boys. How we doing?
So, um, are we going to talk about what we said we were going to talk about?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
What are
So,
we going to talk about?
what? Watch this. Ready? Go, Mitch.
No, I don't do setup. That's your thing. Do you want to talk? What do you want to talk about? The thing we talked about like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
About communication.
yeah.
You lay it out. I mean, you said it better than I can. Please. You're
I mean,
killing
that
that
much is
intro.
obvious because you're a horrific communicator.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I am. It's true. I am.
So, the conversation that I had with Mitch was a series of grunts. Has anyone seen Zootopia 2?
Not yet.
There's a classic scene where like,
The cartoon?
yeah, I love cartoons. And I'd like to say that like, oh, I watch it because of my kids. Like, no, like I'm the one that's the most excited to see it. But there's a scene where like this, I don't know, like gerbil, like squirrel, beaver character. I don't know what kind of animal, but it's like a land animal going to talk to like the water animals. And he tells, the main characters, like, you gotta be respectful. You gotta, talk their language. You gotta meet them where they are, all this stuff. They're like, sure, sure, sure. He's like, just follow my lead. And he goes and he like rings this bell and like one of the water animals comes up and he goes, hey bub, hey bub, hey bub, hey bub bub bub, hey bub 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 bub, bub bub, bub 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 bub. And it's like this like completely nonsensical, but there's this like in rhetoric you call it the phatic communication, like where it's like the communication that's like below the surface, where it's not anything that's actually said, but like what actually connects you. It's like what I do with like my Portuguese speaking patients where I pretend to speak Portuguese and they don't care if I speak Portuguese or not. They care that I'm trying to speak Portuguese. Like it makes them feel comfortable. Like, oh, the problem isn't that they don't speak English, it's that I don't speak Portuguese. And Mitch and I did a little bit of hey bub, hey bub, hey bub bub bub, hey bub, hey bub bub bub. And we settled um, the controversy of January 2026 to an extent, but I think we said, okay, let's keep this conversation going in the meeting because we we both understand that Mitch is busy and he's got three young kids and he's got a schedule to keep and that poses challenges for him to be in the meeting. And he also understands that, uh, Ralph, is your name now Rafat now?
They changed our computers on me.
And
Um,
and they also changed your social security card?
they did it. They changed everything on me.
Like what happened? You've been Ralph for the 46 years that I've known you.
This is Rafat is my real name.
Rafat is your real
Oh,
name.
wow, very
Yeah. Yeah.
Egyptian.
I feel like we need to talk about
Makes it
that
easier for
first.
ICE to find them.
But anyway, Ralph, also known as Rafat, and Sharif, also not known as the nickname that I call him, because apparently that's now nouveau slang for bad things. Um,
What is
like,
it?
oh, I'm not, Sharif, how dirty is this? Like, can I say it or no? I mean, Mitch said the F word.
I did.
It's okay. You say it.
I've called my cousin Shahir since we were like little kids. I called him Shar, and apparently Shar now is like derogatory. Like it's like a bad word. So
Really?
when I called Sharif Shar, he was like, "Ooh, you can't say that
Whoa.
anymore." Um, anyway,
New rule.
so I think Mitch is clear that the three of us also have busy schedules, and the tension that arises is when we're having a hard time getting a hold of Mitch, and Mitch goes into this like vortex of like self-persecution where it's like I'm a horrible person because I can't make the meeting. And then instead of, feeling horrible about himself, then, Mina's the devil because he expects you to communicate. And Mina's saying, yeah, I may be the devil. That is a general sentiment that many have. At the same time, it's hard to schedule these things if 5 minutes before or 5 minutes into it, sometimes you're like, oh, gotta jump. I'm like, what? What do you mean you gotta jump? Where are you going? And that, regardless of whether it's a communication thing, a scheduling thing, regardless of what the relationship is, this isn't like a Mina and Mitch problem. This is a human problem where it's like, I had these expectations of you. You didn't meet them, and I'm gonna set one of us or both of us on fire. So that was, what we thought was actually interesting and valuable. Mitch, you
Yeah.
wanna?
No, no. It's I think sorry, our screaming is already happening. Oh, no, it's
You gotta go because
no, I
this would
don't.
be
No,
great.
no,
This would
no.
be a
That would
very
be hilarious.
illustrative.
That would be perfect.
That would be perfect. Be like, gotta jump,
No,
and
I
I'll be like,
think
all right, Ralph, Sharif. I guess we're talking about something else today.
no, I think time you try to like I try to or we as a tree try to like make time for everything and things get scheduled and punched together pretty quickly. And there's no like Kanban board for life. You can't just pull things off and be like, oh, I'll do this when I get around to it. You have to like make commitments for time. And it's tough when you have you're serving a higher vocation than a mustache you group and you're like, well, I gotta get pulled into this other thing. Um that is higher kind of higher value. I think the interesting like mustache question I would have to the group is like prioritize how do you prioritize your family with other obligations you have? For example, you guys are all pretty well involved in the church and things you're doing. How are you able to make time for that, and how are you able to prioritize?
You say no often.
Yeah, and don't say yes unless you mean it.
Or you follow my motto.
Let's hear it.
Mina, go ahead.
Hold on. There's three
Fir-
mottos.
First
Um,
principle.
the first principle is she who is shatra. Shatra is excellent, I guess.
Something like that, yeah?
Right? Like she who is skilled or she who is successful will be able to sew, like as in like sewing like pants or something with the leg of a donkey, which obviously the leg of a donkey is like a,
Great job.
cumbersome thing, but she'll make it work. Number two, he who
No, no,
loves
let's
the
focus on this. Let's focus on this.
oh, that's the only one. Okay.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
only
want to
one.
demonstrate that I've learned all three.
Okay, go ahead.
A variation on that, but that's not exactly the same, is he who loves the prophet will push. And this is an encouragement that, no matter how little you're able to do, at least do that. And then finally, tie the donkey where the owner wants it. And when you're not in charge, know that you're not in charge and just do as you're told.
That's my three Arabic mottos for the Arabic listener. الشطرة تغزل برجل حمار، اربط الحمار مطرح ما يحبه صاحبه، واللي يحب النبي يزق. Those are the three principles in my life. So focusing on the first one, that we should use the little tools or equipment that we have to do everything. Like, for example, if I'm serving in a certain facility, I take my daughter with me, and this is my dad-daughter times 45 minutes back and forth because I don't have time to do this at home. If I am
Whether she likes
preparing,
it or not. Like she could curse you
well,
both ways, but
well,
you're
I can
spending
bribe
time with
her
your
with
daughter.
something. I can bribe her with Starbucks in the middle. Um, if I want to do something with my son, so I do two things in one time. You multitask. That's the 21st century.
So Mary tells me that human brains are not wired for multitasking, and she always has to add, especially yours, like as in as in mine. Um, and I think at the end of the day, none of us is going to be able to um, effectively do everything that we care about. Um, Even if it's just that one thing, right? If you say, well, listen, I'm gonna completely forget everything. I'm just the only thing I'm going to do is parent. I'm going to parent well, and that's the only thing I'm going to do. I'm going to forget work. You know, the mustache thing is definitely off the list. And the only thing I'm going to do is parent. Even that is going to be done incompletely well. And that
Yep.
80-20 rule of, 20% of your effort is going to get you 80% of the result. And it's just a matter of figuring out what that 20% is and what things deserve the 80% of your effort. Um, and I don't have a great answer. Like this isn't like, oh, because
When
I
I
got it
studied
figured
for the
out.
boards, coming from Egypt, where we need to study everything 100%, one of my seniors here told me you need to study in a shallow but wide way. You don't need to do everything in the exact depth that we did it back in Egypt,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things to study.
I would say that it depends on what it is that we're talking about because some things are the opposite. Some of those things, you want to know very little, but you want to know it very, 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 very well. Like for example, like in marriage, like there's a lot of marital skills. I would say listening is number one, number two, number three, like all the way down to number 17. Where
I
if you
have an
can
ear infection, so I'm not listening to anyone.
right. And I love when a wife will bring in her husband to the office and she'll say, "Oh, sorry, he's hard of hearing." I'm like, "Is he hard of hearing or hard of listening?" I'm more the second one. Right? Like my hearing is fine. It's just my listening that's just not great. Or I'm doing my best to listen. I'm just not very good. And I think that probably over the last 10 years, my ability to both be aware of the value of listening and to actually improve it as a skill, it has been a phenomenal area of growth for me, and like the benefits are tremendous. So I don't think that there is a right answer as to what you do, but I think, as Ralph said, there is an answer as to what you don't do. And if you don't intend to do something, don't even waste your time. Like, don't waste your time on pleasantries or like good intentions. It's just no. I'm like, Sharif's been asking me to do something for 3 months now, and I keep telling him no. He's convinced that I'm still going to do this thing. And only because I love him, I'll probably end up doing it. But this is like I'd rather eat my bow tie than do this thing. Um, but how do you say no, Ralph?
My first job that I had after law school was with the ACLU, and I worked for the president of the ACLU, and she taught me something that I say to this day, or I think about to this day, is I only do that which only I can do. So I only do that which only I can do. So if there are other people who can do X, Y, and Z, then they do it. They
Mm.
should get the blessing of whatever X, Y, and Z is. I don't say yes to everything unless it's something that's only particular to my skill set or my talent set or the place where I'm at in my life. But if there are other people that can do it, then I am very happy to just say no, and they will be found. So I'm not, driving people around unless it's to something that, that's relevant to me. There's no way, there's no easy way to say no. So the only way to say no is just to say no.
I was hoping you'd have a.
No, 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 I don't, because it's a no. It's a no. La, malish, maybe. Okay, well, think about it. That never works. And all it does is frustrate people. And I sometimes tell people that same thing. Look, I do only the things that I can do. If there are other people who can fill this role, then let them fill the role. But for me, I'm not gonna do that. So,
Do people ever take it the wrong way? That it's, because you're not saying it's beneath me. You're
right,
saying someone else can do this, and those are two
right,
different things.
right. Someone
Mm.
else can do it. Right. And I'm doing the things that only I can do. And I don't say no to those things. Or, I try my best unless there's a conflict or something else. I try my best not to say no to those things. And sometimes I'm tempted because I'm lazy, because I just don't want to, I don't feel like it. But then I think back to that statement. You do the things that only you can do. So you just say yes to those things.
And
Very
just to clarify,
easily.
because I do ascribe to the same belief, there are things that only you can do
Yeah,
in a specific role, right? For
right,
example, like going to your kid's sports event.
right,
Any Literally anybody can do that, right? Like it's a
right,
public event. Anybody can go off the street and go stand there, but
right,
nobody's there as your kid's parent,
right, right,
right? Like only you can go as the dad of so and so to this thing. Anybody could physically be there, but only couldn't do it. You're the only one that can do it
right,
in
In
that
this
capacity.
capacity. Yeah.
right.
But at work, it might be clearer because we have different capacities. Like I can spend my whole day filling scripts while an RN can fill the scripts as well. But what about in service or in the spiritual world? How you can gauge this concept? Because I struggle with this. Sometimes I can't say no.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, listen, all right. So if I'm asked to give a sermon, all right, I don't want to. I honestly don't. I don't want to go. I don't want to take the time out for the prep. I don't want to, go up there and speak for the 12 minutes. I don't want to. I say yes, because okay, that's something that for this week, this is what Abuna has chosen, and I say yes to it. But if there are other things, hey, can you take all the kids to the I don't know, food pantry, something I did last year, which took up like 3 hours of my time. And there were other people that, I look around and they're not there. I don't know why they're not there. So I'm like, oh, this is biting you in the behind because you're not listening to your own rule. Plus, I'm not, someone else should get the blessing of that service. Someone whose either time is freer or whose skill set is look, there are skills that you have that I don't have, and there are skills that I have that you don't have.
Mm.
So I should do the things that we complement each other. It can't be 80% of 20% of the people doing 80% of the work, which ends up happening. I think there should be clear lines. Even with service, and it's not a matter of washing feet. Only Jesus could have washed the disciples' feet. So it's not a matter of, some kind of hierarchy of service. Um, there is it's not about that. It's just about what God has given me and me recognizing that and saying, okay, this is whether it's, some people might, there might be some person who's, makes a ton of money and their service is donating a lot of money to the church because that's something only they can do. um I don't know to me it's a really really bright line rule, and I don't have a problem saying no. I don't have a
What is
problem giving other people the blessing of service.
what about the adage, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it?
Yeah. Well, I mean that happens. That's why a lot of people who serve or work hard get more work put upon them. But
Oh yeah, that's a common phenomenon.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It
work
is.
at service, in family.
Yeah, but then it just burns you out. Like there's, like I, God doesn't expect us to be burned out. Come away to a quiet place and rest for a while. That's what Jesus said. So,
Mm.
I mean, I think service requires you knowing your own limits and you giving yourself limits, as well, and not
Yes, the
just
other
taking
one,
on
the
the
other
role.
one is more important. Yeah, you're giving
Yeah,
yours.
Okay.
because I know a lot of people who don't say no, you know, and I when they sit there and rattle off to me the resume of the work that they do and how much it is, and it's so much, I think to myself, you are just being a martyr. I think it to myself. I'm like, you're doing this because you want to feel like you are so needed that no one else can do the work that you're doing. It's to me, I think it's a huge ego thing to just take everything on, everything from sweeping of the floors to like I know surgeons who sweep the floors and you know put up the and there are other people that can do it, but they love to do it and love to talk about how much they're doing. And I think to myself,
Yeah,
you just
the ego is between the two parts, loving to
yeah,
and love to talk about it.
right. I mean, so I think that's, I think we can fall into the trap of also, thinking of ourselves much more relevant or much more necessary than we are.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I'm not necessary.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think
You are
we are
necessary, but you
necessary.
are not irreplaceable or
Right,
I'm
indispensable.
not.
right.
Yeah, I'm not.
We're necessary in that someone needs to do it, and you
Right.
specifically need to do something. Both of those things are true.
Right. Yes.
But this specific thing for this specific person at this
Right.
specific time,
Right.
not necessarily. The
Right.
only exception I would say is, again, like it's a specific thing in a specific role. Just like anybody could go, watch the soccer game, but you're going as the parent. Anyone can do this specific thing. Now, if the purpose of this thing is for it to be done well, and to Mitch's point, like, sometimes yes, like the more responsible people end up getting, asked to do more things than, is fair or necessary because we know that it'll get done properly. The other reason for it is not for the thing itself, but for the effect that it has on the person. And if the reason you're doing it is not for it to be done well, but for your own salvation and for your own growth, then that's between you and your father of confession, your spiritual advisor, your family, like whatever it is, you're asking yourself, even if somebody else could do this thing, am I called to do this thing, right? Like anybody that becomes a priest, right? Yeah, hypothetically, anybody could do it. Sure. Like, oh, it's the grace of God. Oh, it's not me. Yeah, that's fine. That's true. Anybody could do it. Now, yes, we want it done well. And also, if this is this person's calling to be a priest, then, I think they're doing it just as much for their own salvation as they are for the benefit that they are offering the community.
Like yesterday, from after church, I saw one of must be in his 40s, and he was taking out the garbage, big old bags of garbage, right? And I said, let's pretend his name is John. I said, John, what are you doing? Why are you taking out the garbage? He said, I, well, you want to help me? I said, I don't want to help you. I said, but we got a budget. We got a handful of 18 and 19-year-old boys in there. Like, why, instead of them sitting downstairs just talking on their phones, why don't you get them to participate? Why don't you get them into the habit of serving? Like, why are you doing it yourself?
Right. You're
Ah, well, it's
doing them a
easier to do.
disservice.
Yeah, you are doing them a disservice.
Right.
And he says, well, it's easier just to do it. I said, it's horrible that you do it. Just tell them, get up and do it, and they will, when you expect things of people, well, you know what? They can actually rise to the occasion when you expect it of them, when you expect nothing of people. And I think maybe that might be something in our communities where I think people want to serve, but I don't think the priests, I think priests might get lazy, or they might, they have their go-to people and they don't want the pushback. I think people want to be used. People, and I don't mean used as in misused. I
Mm,
think people want to be utilized, they want to have a function in the church. Um, and I think that applies in our work and our home. You got let the kids do chores. Don't take out the garbage. Tell your son or daughter to empty the dishwasher. I mean, it's part of equipping people.
mhm.
So I think saying yes all the time is just, like you said, it's a disservice to others.
Like you brought the example of a sermon or a talk or a lesson. That's something that I run out frequently. I'm asked to give XYZ talk here and there and there. And then I said, okay, but those kids who are like 22, 23, they can give the sermon.
Right.
But you give it in a better way. Yeah, because I'm double their age.
Right. Exactly right. And
But
and if it wasn't for Abuna Gabriel in West Side when I was 18 years old
Mhm.
telling me, "Hey, I want you to do this,"
Yeah,
I would never have been where I am today. And where I am today, whatever that means, But serving or giving sermons or doing things, it took a priest to just trust an 18-year-old person,
and a
that
very old school priest, by the way.
right, a very old school priest, and thinking, okay, well, now it's time to do that, and it's I can say it changed my life, and I think it's you know we're losing a lot of service and maybe even losing a lot of souls because of that inability,
Is
Yeah.
there in like a Western culture a fear of things being done to beat the fear of letting things be done badly? Not in bad, I mean that like yeah, it's the first 18-year-old. I'm sure your first sermon was not mm, what it would be today. But we're afraid of letting people do things badly.
Right.
Is that a question? Is it just true?
That's true, I'm sure before First Thessalonians, St. Paul drafted a couple of things. I mean, you can't, we can't. You you got to let people fail too. As long as they fail up, isn't that what Steve Jobs used to say? Fail up. As long as they,
Mhm.
but they're never going to get any better if they don't get better.
Yep.
And look, it's not going to be heresy. It's not. I mean, you need, they need guidance and all that stuff, and maybe people even need guidance on how to take out the garbage. And someone should be able to provide them with that, with that guidance.
Hmm.
And again, I'll hopefully, be forgiven for repeating myself. If taking out the garbage is for his salvation, right? And it's not something that is taking away from the potential of these youth, which I would agree with you, it probably is. And it's not taking away the blessing from them, which I agree with you, it probably is. Or that, there's some specific reason why he has to do it. But I do think that, like, for example, the I get mercilessly abused by my staff in the operating room, right? Where they're like, "Oh, like, what's taking you so long?" Like, "Oh, like, have you never done this before? Oh, we can get so and so to come in and help you." Like, it's just nonstop abuse. And I always think of that verse, the poor man um rejoices in his exaltation, but the rich man in his humiliation, right? So if we're in a position where, we're really blessed and like, we're doing well for ourselves and we're well respected, then a little ego crushing every now and then is actually a good thing, right? And if this person, feels that way, that, this is a little bit of humiliation, that, the way that they are wrestling with their own salvation is by doing this thing that they consider to be humiliating. Which it didn't sound like, right? It sounded like, well, I
Right,
just
right,
don't feel like dealing with the kids. Like if,
right. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, no, like dealing with the kids and counseling them and encouraging them and putting them in a position where, you're holding them to that same standard that you're holding to yourself. Sometimes that's harder than just taking out the trash, right? But
right,
that is your job. That is your calling. But if it's the opposite, like someone else is taking out the trash, almost like in secret, and almost it's just like, listen, I need this humiliation because my
right,
ego
right,
is
right,
needing a little bit of constraint, then that's a different way of doing the same thing. It's the same person doing the same thing, but the way that they're doing it or the motivation behind it is different.
yeah, totally. I think, I once, I think, when I got too, when my head got too big, I don't know, maybe when I was like 22 or 23 or something. And, that same priest, I'd been teaching high school kids, and that same priest said, okay, go teach the kindergarten kids. I was like, what? What do you mean teach? What
You know
want to
who I
teach
am?
me? Do you know who I am? Like, I'm not going to teach kindergarten kids. What are you talking about? You know? And then it was like, okay, well, this is what I have to do. And it was sort of this, and I'm not saying, serving kindergarten kids is hard. It's a lot
It's way
sometimes
harder than high school.
it's way harder. It's way harder. Um, but it was sort of an ego check on thinking you're too big, which is necessary, whether that quote humiliation is taking out the garbage or serving kindergarten kids. It could, it keeps you in check and it's necessary. You're right.
I'll tell you something about taking out the garbage. We have a deacon in our church, Deacon Abram. Maybe the first or second time I see him, and from across the hallway, yeah, doctor, take the garbage with you. You don't need to call me doctor for this, first of all. I'm more
You
than
could be
happy
like,
to take the
Jezebel. That's garbage man, Mitch. So like, hey,
Okay,
garbage man. Um, but meanwhile, mind you, Deacon Abram, like, like if you knew half the stuff that this guy's doing secretly, like
I know,
quietly, like
I know,
just
I
taking
know very
care of
well,
business
actually.
behind the scenes, um, you know, it's like, yeah, thank God somebody's doing that. So
He
we're
was setting
almost
the
out of
stage.
time for this episode. And we've got 7 minutes. Do you guys have time to record another one?
I do not.
Do
No,
not.
not
So
today.
in that case,
No.
let's
No, very
move
good.
on.
Yay.
Yeah, good. Bravo. So in that case, let's loop back to the actual question because I don't know if you guys know this, but Mitch is a debate champion. Do you guys know this? Mitch, can you tell us about your debate championship?
No, I won. This is a long time ago, but in high school, I won parliamentary debate for the state of Illinois, and then lost miserably and got humbled at the national level.
Yeah,
What
but
was the
he was
topic?
he was the state
There were
debate
many.
champion for the
It's
entire
then,
state.
yeah, it didn't work. Like there was no like topic you argued over. It's you show up, you
And they give it to you there?
they give it to you there, you get 15
Oh,
minutes, and
wow.
it's go to war.
Oh,
So
wow.
can you guys recognize the brilliance of Mitch's strategy where I presented a question where I said, I mustache you something, and he said, well, I mustache you something else. And the question was, how do I put up with Mitch? And then Mitch was like, that's a really interesting question. What I'm wondering about is we all face challenges. And how do we say no? And how do we say yes? And he got us to go off on a 30-minute
That's right.
tangent.
That
But
was.
the
He
question
won.
still remains, how do I put up with Mitch? That's the harder
Answer.
question. For me, saying no, saying yes, being overextended, whatever. Like my entire life is one giant overextension, right? I'm already doing six different things that I shouldn't be doing. What's seven? What difference does it make? Even if I say yes, that's not the biggest error. The biggest error for me is giving up with a relationship with someone like Mitch simply because he's a horrible communicator, right? I love Mitch and I want to continue my relationship with Mitch. And whether it's, Mitch's fatal flaw of communication or someone else's fatal flaw of something else, we cannot use their fatal flaw as an assassination of the relationship, right?
But
Or
does
a
Mitch want to have
justification.
this relationship with you? Have you asked him that question?
I I don't know if this is appropriate for a public forum, but Mitch, do you want to run away with me?
I provide my consent.
What did you say?
I provide my consent.
So I mean, do you want to run away together? Like, do you want to get in the car and just drive, or you
Dude,
know?
there are days where I just want to like it's part of being a father, right? Just burn this all down, start over. And then you don't, and that's what makes
Right.
you a man, I suppose.
But yeah, like you're right, Raf. I think, or Rafat. I do think that there's this potential that, like, no, like, and I actually literally had this conversation today about someone to a mutual friend where I'm like, listen, like, this person clearly doesn't want to make the same effort I do, and that's okay. Like, I'm not gonna hold them to a standard that they don't hold themselves to. I'm not worried about that. But with the assumption that something so simple like we want to do these recording sessions. We want to get together, and clearly there's an earnest desire on Mitch's part to be part of this, and there's an earnest desire on my part to include him. However, like there's some practical limitations,
Yeah.
whether it's, reality or ability, either way, right? And the reason that I think this is important is because it's not just about me and Mitch, right? I think me and Mitch are fine even if we stop doing the mustache series, right? The mustache, this isn't like the most important thing that either one of us does, or the means by which we define our relationship,
It
right?
is the most important thing I do.
We know and we pray about it constantly.
But like if it's like just a simple example of something where like, okay, two people are trying, but it's creating conflict. How much more when it's something significant, right? Like if we're having, angst or like tension over nothing, then how much more angst and how much more tension are we going to have over something substantive? Um, so I'm first of all, like, well played, Mitch. Like you burned 45 minutes, or sorry, 35 minutes on
Well,
something completely
I
different.
knew you would. I knew you would bring it back around. We don't have to do it for 5 minutes versus 4, so it's a win
Yeah,
for me,
but how do we do that? Like, how do
dude.
we?
It's yeah, that's a tough, and I think that's like the problem of our not to overextend it, but like a modern like marriages, like who's putting in more effort. It becomes this like game of like how do you figure out like who does the dishes? Like that's like it's does seems like nothing. It's the tension there of like who's making more effort. How do you do that? I don't have an answer, so I'd love for you guys
I
to.
have an answer. I have an
Let's
answer.
hear it.
Something my
You
dad
got
told me a long time ago before I got married, because he passed away before I got married. He said, never go for 50-50. 50-50 will leave you both miserable. He said, go for 60-40. You expect 60% of yourself, 60% of the work of the marriage will be on your shoulders, and only expect 40% from your spouse. That way, you will never be 60%. You will probably be less than that. And she will probably be more than 40. So you'll end up meeting somewhere that's closer to 100 than if you both expect I will fold and she will wash, and I will dry and she will wash. If you expect more of yourself and less of the other person, then you will have a happy relationship.
That's the
yeah,
exact translation of the proverb, whoever loves the prophet, let him push.
Oh, really? Is it? Is that what it
Yeah.
means?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
because I didn't
that's
understand anything you said. I didn't.
well, okay.
the last God, we
We
need to do
can
a
have a
podcast
whole
on the
session
last
about those things.
the
We
last
should.
the last one is that one's tight and good.
What is?
Um, the last is like tie the donkey where the owner says to
Yeah.
Donna. Um, yeah, we need to revisit that or like this idea of interpersonal relationships. How do you set yourself up for 60 and then get pissed about it when
60,
Mitch is not
40.
communicating? It's because I won't even do unless I'm getting paid. I don't even do 40.
Yeah. And I think to a certain extent, I'm learning to accept 80/20 in many relationships. But I'm doing so deliberately, right? And I'm doing so with
Mm.
understanding and the ability to say, listen, I'm comfortable with this person's 20%. I'm okay with it. I'm even comfortable in some situations with zero. Like, you're not even going to try. That's okay. Like, like I said, for just like with the other thing, like this relationship is for my salvation. It's not because I expect anything from this person. So we'll pick this